Let's welcome Dan Dillon to Inside Check. Hi, Dan.
Hello. Thanks so much for having me on.
We are going to roll. I got a 20.
No way. Tell us everything.
Okay.
You need to tell us everything
All of the
about
secrets.
yourself.
Yep.
Every single thing that you're working on that hasn't been announced yet.
All right, here we
Actually,
go.
no.
Oh, all right.
He was ready.
He was going to do it.
That's Ray's job, but all right, we'll do it.
And it's our job
you-
to stop him.
You've been working in tabletop RPGs for a long time. When did you begin? When do you think? What was your first thing that you published?
Sure. So when I originally got my start was back in 2013 when I started doing freelance work. And I didn't actually start with Dungeons & Dragons. I started with other games first. And I was doing third-party publisher work for some other games. I actually got into it by accident. A buddy of mine won a game design contest. And so he got to design an adventure for another game's organized play program. And that just sort of launched him into talking to other third-party publishers, like Rogue Genius Games was the one in particular. And he was putting together a plan on Facebook, and I was trolling him and jumping in with silly ideas and throwing out, what if we did a golem made of eyeballs and it pulled the eyeballs out of people and healed itself? And I just, was just being a jerk. And he said, all right, Dan, you need to shut up and understand that I'm going to steal all these ideas and put them in the book, or you need to come and write them in the book. And that was kind of like a light bulb moment where I went, oh, I could do that. I could go write it in a book. Sure. And
what were you doing? Sorry.
What's that?
What were you doing at the time? Like in 2013? Like, what
what was my deal at the time?
What was your job? Like, yeah.
My job was stay-at-home dad at the time, actually.
That's awesome.
So when my son was born in 2009, I quit my career at the time, which was in mental health, and just went full-time stay-at-home parent.
Nice.
So, and I did that all the way up until I started freelancing in 2013.
Wow. I want to be a stay-at-home parent.
No, I don't.
It's a job.
And that's probably a good reason why you were so good at coming up with all these horrific monsters.
I had a lot of time to think.
No, I think just because you had a lot of inspiration.
A lot of inspiration.
You don't have a lot of time as a stay-at-home parent, let's be honest.
That's true.
But that's awesome. So your friend encouraged you to write for this book that they were working on.
Yep. And
you were
and
like,
that
this is a thing.
I was like, this is a thing. Let's do it. So I did it. And, with a couple of other friends. And then that turned into, we got some gigs with a few other publishers, one of those being Kobold Press. And when the open gaming license happened for 5th edition, I jumped into writing for that and haven't looked back ever since. So, yeah.
Nice. Get to work with Wolfgang and all that fun crew at Kobold Press.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's so many good peoples over there.
I remember talking to Wolfgang after you accepted your job on the D&D team, and he was like, I'm happy, but I'm sad.
Oh, man. Yeah. I tell you, that's my one kind of sad thing is like, I don't get to work with Kobold anymore, at least not directly.
Yeah. He's great.
Yeah.
What was your experience like in 2013 when you started writing? Because it's a very specialized skill. It's not just like, I'm just going to write this thing. Like, did you, what were some of the biggest things that you learned early on in your career that have still served you well today?
Well, the biggest thing is how different it is writing your own notes for your own, game or table prep. And because really game design was just kind of an extension of how I DM'd games and how I created stuff for my own tables. Realizing your own personal shorthand and how much you fill in the gaps of your own writing and ideas, that is an eye-opener, and it is night and day. Creating something that you can boil down onto a page that anybody could pick up, understand what you mean, and then use it versus, whatever's in your notebook. Those are very different things. And that is, it takes a lot of practice and trial and error and learning from your mistakes to figure out how to do that well. And
even then, after playtesting, you're like, oh, I thought I had it, but no, I guess I don't. People don't understand this sentence for whatever reason.
Exactly. It's like, I thought I had it, but enough people are saying, hey, we thought it worked this way. Clearly I didn't write it well enough. And so that is the beauty of playtest and getting so many eyes on things, and Unearthed Arcana, just so valuable.
So when you started at D&D, what were the type of things that you started working on? I don't necessarily talk about products, but just like what kind of design and things
design?
were you doing?
So the very first things I did, I jumped in initially on some pretty crunchy mechanics. So I got to work on basically stat block and stat block adjacent things. I got to do magic items. I got to do some subsystems that you would see that show up in an adventure or in other products. And I also got to pretty early on try my hand at some world building and narrative work too. So I got to do a fairly good chunk of that right up front.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was great. It was a lot of fun. Still is. And my focus has primarily been on the mechanical side of things. A lot of player options, a lot of monsters, a lot of magic items and spells and villains and all of that fun stuff. But starting to branch out a little more into some of the more story crafting, which I'm really excited about.
So with the stuff that you're working on mostly now, is it like you're coming up with the ideas, putting them out for play testing, taking that feedback and analyzing it and tweaking, or what does that look like?
So when we're on a project, I'll get an assignment usually, and we'll be like, "Hey Dan, here's a pack of 10 monsters that you need to design for this thing," and then the lead of that book will have a breakdown of what they want to see in those monster slots, and then I kind of just get to go. Sometimes I have a little bit more of a narrow, "This is what we want this monster to do," and sometimes it's very generic, like, "Here's an idea, here's a rough challenge rating. See what you can come up with that's cool." And so it kind of runs the gamut. And then for player-facing stuff, it'll be a little bit more focused. It'll be like, "Okay, here's a subclass that we want you to do. It's going to be for Ranger. It's going to, we needed to hit these beats. We wanted to do this sort of thing." And so then I work on that. And then after I've created a draft, the team all gets into there and rips it apart, puts it back together, and makes it just better and better from the ground up. And then it goes out to the public for Unearthed Arcana. And that's where we really get to separate the wheat from the chaff and see what's going to hopefully maybe someday make it into a book.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
What are some things, not spoiler, like things that exist currently that you worked on that you're very excited about, or for D&D?
Sure. Well, most recently, several of the monsters in Ben Recton's Guide to Ravenloft. My favorite in there is probably the Luguru, the legendary big sort of lord level werewolf. That one was super fun to work on.
That's a Dan Dillon special right there.
I did the draft. Yep, that was
All
was one of
right.
my drafts, and then the team gets a hold of it, and everybody gets to weigh in and pick up any of the places where maybe I missed the mark and sand the edges down and just make it better and better. And so it turned out great. I'm really proud of that scary, scary monster. I just heard. Ooh, we have a goblin. I just heard a story about actually one of our coworkers, Tamor, is running a game, and his entire party got cursed with lycanthropy fighting a Luguru. So that is going to be delightful. I can't wait to hear how that goes down.
Good.
Yeah. I just saw that on the Twitters as well. Mm-hmm. Very exciting. I love that dynamic though you're describing of like you write this thing in private, or at least alone, and then it becomes a collaborative process afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
How does that? Talk a little bit more about that process if you can, about like what's it like to have, this room of people, almost like a writer's room from a TV thing, critique and make the whatever you drafted better.
Yeah. So sometimes we'll write our drafts kind of in our own little nooks, and then we'll kind of bring them together in a meeting, and we'll put them up, and everybody can get in there and add their comments and suggest changes, that sort of thing. Sometimes we'll also do jam sessions where several designers will get together on a meeting call, and we'll just kind of riff the ideas in real time. So even sometimes, it's great. Sometimes at the draft level, it's not one person's work, but it's a team coming together to even just start laying the foundation for it. So it is amazing having this collaborative atmosphere to be able to draw on the experience and the creativity and the skill of all of these different people who are working on the design team. Everything we put out is so much better for having all of these people able to bring their focus into it and just help kind of just lift each other's work up.
Oh,
it's a dragon talk. We like to lift it all up.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel like it's done? as a game designer? Are you like, oh, yeah, cannot make this better? Or are you like, are you ever scared to like open up Van Richten's guide and be like, I don't want to read what I published because I know I could have done better?
There will always be something you see and you're like, I
Like
would've gone
any
this
writer,
way.
I
If I,
think.
if I, I just, in the shower this morning, I could have done it this way. And,
Yeah.
that happens to every bit of text in every book ever written in the world.
Gotta let
But one
that
of the
go.
things I learned early on is that perfect is the enemy of done. You strive for the highest quality bar that you can, but
Yes.
you do have to give yourself that at some point it does need to be done. You can't just keep iterating on it. You've got to hit the goal you set out for and then be comfortable with that and move on to the next step of the process. And that
That's-
step might
that's
lead
good
to
advice.
more revision, like playtest. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I forget what director it was, but it's basically said that no film is ever completed. They're just abandoned.
right. Yep. Same deal. There is that feeling often.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is all I can do.
Tinker,
It's,
tinker, tinker.
95% there, Alfred Hitchcock.
Yep. And we'll take 95.
Heck yeah.
For sure. So I think this is true, but you're a dungeon master, probably more than a player, right?
In general, sort of on the whole, yes, very true. This past year, not so much. I've actually gotten to step back from the DM screen a bit and be more of a player than I ever have before. But big picture, yeah, very much a DM.
What
Why-
are you playing in right now that you're excited about?
Ooh, sure. Well, all right. So the one I'm DMing right now, I just said I'm a player. No, I'm going to talk about the one I'm DMing. So I'm DMing a Descent into Avernus campaign for two friends of mine.
You got to tell us the truth, Dan.
Yeah, I do. For two friends of mine who I used to play D&D with in second edition in high school, and they hadn't played since we all kind of went our separate ways, and got them back in. We're playing over Zoom every week, and they jumped back into it like fish to a pond. And they have had some of the best, wildest ideas, and it's come up with some of the it's so much that I'm sharing it on Twitter sometimes when they're doing whatever it is they've come up with doing. The last thing they did is they were playing dice for soul coins in Avernus in Infernal Rapture. So that's been an absolute blast. Just getting to reconnect with two of my very best friends in the world over D&D again, and it's been fantastic.
That's awesome.
Now, as a player, I'm playing a Goliath Warlock using one of the subclasses out of Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, playing the Fathomless. So we're playing in a Rime of the Frost Maiden campaign, but it's high level. We started the campaign at 11, which is usually where it ends. So the DM has been doing heavy homebrew, messing with it, just taking the book as a starting point and then doing his own thing with it and bringing it up to the level of the PCs. And that's actually a live stream game, which has been a lot of fun to play. And it's a very different environment when you're playing, knowing you have an audience and sort of playing up that aspect to it, trying to be as interesting as you can be, rather than getting stuck in the nitty gritty of, I roll, I hit, damage, move on, that sort of thing.
Right.
Having a lot of fun with the narrative and narration of it.
That's always a fun contrast when we talk to people who are known for being streamers, right? Like how it's more performance, and you want to make sure you're entertaining all the time. That's not always true when you're playing with your friends or just trying to BS in a night.
Exactly. Yeah. Every role-playing group has the just that sort of trope of going way off topic, probably way more than people like to think about. You got to try and curtail that when you have limited time slot and, people are watching you, spending their precious time hanging out with you for some entertainment.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you get the chance to do it, not on camera as well. So that's a great time. And I'm glad you're able to reconnect with your friends. That's such a fun.
I know, that's so cool.
Yeah, me too. It's been great.
Do they miss Thaco?
They do not. They do not. They are all in on 5th edition, and they are loving just sort of the innovations and the design direction, the evolution of the game, and they're breathing this stuff. We have a group text thread that is jumping every day of the week between game nights.
That's awesome.
That's so cool. Does it just feel like old times, like no time has passed?
Immediately, no time has passed. We're right back together, hanging out, and yeah.
Were you the dungeon master for back then too, when you guys played together?
Kind of rotated. I did. I had access to a lot more published material, particularly after I moved away. I would go back in the summers to visit because I moved halfway through high school. And so I would bring all of the old dungeon magazines with me, and then would just run adventures out of there for, get everybody around the table in the living room. And we just do however many of those we could get in a week on a summer vacation visit.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, it was a
Feels
blast.
nostalgic now, right? Let's bring
Sure
that back,
does.
everybody.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I was just thinking, I want my son to have a summer like that. I just want a bunch of kids in the basement playing D&D.
Yep.
Just because there's no room in the living room. I'm not putting them in the basement.
Wherever
That's
works.
like, where do you play D&D?
Put them in the attic. Nothing weird happening.
Wherever they
there.
want. They can be outside. They can be anywhere. Just
Yeah.
Well, that's great, Dan. I mean, you've been a wonderful smiling face when we were back in the office working on Dungeons & Dragons, and I'm glad to be able to get to see it here.
Yeah, I'm delighted to get to hang out with you guys again.
good to see you.
I'm going to see if anything you said was, I rolled a 1. So
Oh.
Jeez.
I believe everything you said.
Well,
We
we'll just have to
believe
see
you.
how it plays out.
Okay.
Dan, if people wanted to follow along with the stories you're telling about D&D and your campaigns, what's the best way for them to do that?
Sure. So that's on the Twitter. I'm at Dan_Dillon_1.
Number 1.
Dan's
Number one.
number one.
Just remember that.
There's a lot of us out there on Twitter. So
Well, that's a whole new campaign that you'll be pitching to the design team of how to destroy all the Dans.
All
in
the
world.
Dan
Yeah.
Dillons against each
there
other.
can be only one.
Destroy Dan Dillon. I like it.
Highlander.
It's got
All
a
right.
good
Dance
ring.
must die. Yeah.
Thanks, Dan. Hopefully we'll see you in the office soon.
Yeah. We're getting
day.
back to something resembling a new normal. So fingers crossed, looking forward to it.
You too.